Interesting developments. Anybody who was around, uh, 18 months or so ago, in the summer of 2024, when the stuff blew up, Tobias Riemenschneider and Joel Webbon's church in Texas, and a former member of Tobias's church that went to Joel's church. And a member shared this meme. It's a very common meme with a little girl asking her pretty mommy a question, and you can put anything you want in there. And so somebody had put in, what is the Holocaust? And the mommy's answer was, it was a time when the Jews were forced to do manual labor, and they said it was killing them. And this had led to a conversation and, the recording and all the rest of that fun stuff. And in the months that followed, especially toward the end of 2024, I said, you know what? There's going to be this conference in April of 25, and all the big names in this movement are coming to it, and that's going to clarify stuff. And then I said by the end of 2025, so by New Year's Eve of 2025, I think positions are going to be very clearly delineated. And I honestly hoped, against hope really, that some of that might involve people turning from this stuff and abandoning it and recognizing how foolish it is. But that's not really what has happened. I mean, I'm sure there are some who have done that. But in reality, a trajectory has been plotted and is being followed at a higher rate of speed than I expected. So when you think back to what we were talking about in 2024, and then listen to this clip. Now, there's been some criticism that, well, this is from Right Wing Watch, and so they're a left-wing organization. Yeah, they are. But this is an unedited clip directly from Joel Webbon. So who cares who posted it? That's irrelevant. The question is it accurate? Has it been AI generated? Has it been AI edited? No one has said anything about that. No one's made that claim. So think back to 2024. Think about what we were talking about. And now listen to Joel Webbon very recently, and see if that end of 2025 prediction wasn't pretty much spot on.
That historical event is no mere historical event. It is a religion. It is an ideology. It is a worldview. It is a weaponized bludgeon that has beat generation after generation of white young men into believing they're not allowed to have a future. And it is time for Holocaustianity, that false, wicked, satanic religion of Holocaustianity, to fall and crumble like the idol that it is. Somebody raises an Islamic 90-foot statue in my state, which they have outside of Houston. My prayer is that that statue would be ground into dust. Let no false god be worshiped on American soil. This is a Christian nation, and Christ is king. And the same principle applies to a more powerful false religion that has had America, my nation, in a stranglehold a lot longer and a lot tighter than Islam ever has or likely ever will. And that is the false religion, not of Islam, but Holocaustianity. And all its idols and all its high priests and all of its altars and all of its sacraments must be ground into dust. And if that requires some young men to use language that makes you feel a little icky, God bless it. That is...
Okay. Holocaustianity. Weaponized, used as a bludgeon to, what was the terminology? Convince young white men that they can't have a future? What? Well, huh? That doesn't make a lick of sense. I mean, you know, we've been seeing this. It's all the Jews. It's all the Jews. It's all the Jews. Holocaustianity, sacraments, evil, satanic religion. I mean, he went on and on and on and on. Now, I don't know what young men he was talking about that said icky things. May have that been a while ago when some of those chat group messages came out that were vile and things like that demonstrated you can be a political conservative and still, you know, want people killed and things like that. And didn't that guy win in Virginia that had wished death on his opponent's family and kids? Yeah, I think he did. Anyway, tells you something about America these days. But what on earth is Holocaustianity? And how has it been used as a bludgeon? Notice the audience. Young white men. Young white men. You're trying to convince them that they have been made victims. And since they've been made victims, their future's being stolen from them, and I'm going to stand for you, and you just need to what? Follow me. You need to give me clicks. Maybe hit the Patreon button somewhere down there. Whatever it might be. And I sit here and go, young white men, young black men, young Hispanic men, young Asian men, young Eskimo men, whatever. What has actually been used to hold them down, to beat them down? What's been weaponized against them? The Holocaust? What are you even babbling about? In comparison to the degradation of the secular worldview, naturalistic materialism, Darwinism, in comparison, Holocaustianity isn't even on the charts. It's like, well, but there are secular Jews. Yeah, I know. And there are secular everything else. Secularism, sadly, transcends a lot of those categories. But you can't fight a battle when you've got the complete wrong enemy in your crosshairs. And again, think back to 2024. Think back to what was being said then. Now listen to this now and go, whoa, that is where he was going. That is what they were saying. Yeah. Very clearly being said now. Now, again, I've said before, I had hoped that there might be some repentance, returning, some common sense that would be expressed by these guys. Hasn't happened. And as he sits there in his studio, there's nobody there to rein him in. Sorry, he's surrounded by yes men. They're all dependent upon him, so they're not gonna say anything, even if they feel like, ooh, that's went a little bit too far, or ooh, that's not really where we need to be. Doesn't make any difference. They're not gonna say anything about it. So he has cut himself free of everybody who could in any way say to him, Joel, you've lost balance. You're going after stuff that makes no sense. And by the way, he did admit, I responded to this on X last night, or yesterday afternoon maybe. He did admit, There are no 90-foot Islamic statues outside of Houston. There is a Hindu 90-foot tall statue outside of Houston. And I had one guy go, okay, it's just all a demon anyways. I just don't know. I don't care. You know. That's the kind of comment made by people who have no intentions of ever being useful in bringing a message of hope and peace to either Hindus or Muslims. And would only bring confusion if they tried. So he confused a Hindu deity with something from Islam, which means he doesn't understand Tawheed, the oneness of Allah, the detestation of images, statues, all that kind of stuff. And the number of times that Muslims in that disputed areas in Pakistan and India where Hindus and Muslims end up coming to blows, the Muslims have many times blown up Hindu shrines, Buddhist shrines, destroyed the images. So someone familiar, with just a little bit with Islam would have known that, but I don't think Joel is familiar with either religion for that matter. But he admitted it. Yep, I misspoke. Got that one wrong. Okay, fine. But the whole Holocaustianity stuff, there is no such things. There are no sacraments. It's all about the Jews. It's all this, that, and everything. And look, we're just asking questions. Isn't that, what's her face that met with Erica? Candace, yeah. I keep forgetting her name for some reason. That's what Candace owns. We're just asking questions. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're making specific claims. You are slandering. You are asserting. Don't say you're just asking questions. You're not asking questions. It's perfectly fine to ask questions. It's the heart's motivation that matters. And look, I asked questions 2 years ago, over 2 years ago now, and I still have questions about the October 7th incident. A nation that has spies in every government in the world, including our own, that could pull off the Hezbollah pager thing. Wow. That had people at the upper echelons of the Iranian government. A nation with that kind of intelligence operation could get completely surprised by people whose tech level is 150 years behind them. And it just happens to happen right before a national election that Netanyahu was certainly going to lose. And that has resulted in, a complete realignment in the Middle East and the utter destruction of Gaza. I mean, it's a wasteland. You might as well let Trump go in, raise it, and start building casinos because there's almost nothing left there. And I wouldn't put it past him. That's meant as a joke, but you never know. So I have questions about that. I was really like, how does that happen? Gliders? How do they get gliders that close to the border? And you don't think Israel's got everything under observation there constantly? So I ask questions like that. And I'm not a quote-unquote Zionist. I do. It's embarrassing to see pastors going over there. And what did they have this thing recently? 100 different pastors at the Huckabee brought over, and they're doing all this, it's all this dispensational, premillennial, bless Israel, you will be blessed stuff. And yeah, is Israel in it for Israel first and foremost? Yeah. Do I think that's the most pure? They're pure as driven snow in their foreign policy or their internal policy? No. Vast majority of them are secular Jews. They're not religious Jews. They're LGBTQ friendly out the wazoo. Tel Aviv is one of the most. Tel Aviv is like San Francisco, as far as that stuff's concerned. So no, this is a secular state. Are there observant Talmudic Jews? There are. They're a minority, rather small minority. And I don't believe that Jews have the ability to somehow telepathically communicate with all other Jews. And we're going to do this despite how different we are. And it's silly. So asking questions and going, something doesn't smell right here. It's perfectly fine. But that's not what's going on here. When you start talking about Holocaustianity, a satanic false religion with sacraments and priests and stuff like that, you're going way beyond. We're just asking questions. Sort of related to that was what happened over the weekend, Bondi Beach in Australia. And of course, I noticed that the Australian authorities, they will not address immigration. They will not address the threats of Islamic radicalism. But they will pass, and undoubtedly will pass, more restrictions on the ownership of guns. And the Australian people are already defenseless. They already turned in their weapons. And so, how many, I didn't ask. Hold on, you know what? How many miles of shoreline does Australia have? Asking Grok here really quickly, and has 80 results. And okay, not including offshore islands, you have 35,821 kilometers, 22,258 miles, according to Geoscience Australia. Other estimates for mainland range from 34,000 to 36,000 kilometers, 21,100 to 22,400 miles. That's a lot of shoreline. A lot of shoreline. And you're not going to be able to patrol all of it, which means that guns will get in if people want to get them there. Most Australians don't want to spend time in prison. It was a former prison camp. Anyway. So the market wouldn't be all that big, but somebody who wants them can get them there, which means the Australians are defenseless. And, it's true in the United States. This is true every place else. When seconds count, the police are minutes away. And one policeman, I believe, was seriously injured, fighting for his life right now. They're not used to dealing with people who are shooting back. And that's what happened in that particular situation. And I can't help but point out the amazing video. Can you imagine all the stuff in history we would have videos of if we had had cell phones all along? Can you imagine if there were cell phones in the Roman Senate, on the Ides of March? We would have known exactly who stabbed who. Anyway, the brave Muslim man, it's a Muslim man, who disarmed one of the shooters, snuck up behind him, grabbed him around the head, around the neck, and managed to get the gun away from him. I guess he got shot multiple times afterwards. Not by that guy, but by, I guess, his son. If that was the father, it was a father-son shooting team. So, anyway, it has been appropriately pointed out that he was a Muslim. He is a Muslim. And one thing I'm certainly seeing these days is when people just want to give vent to prejudice, bias, hatred, racism, they will stop making proper distinctions. And so I've seen a lot of people talking about we need to ban Islam from the United States. Okay, not sure how you're going to pull that off exactly. But is there a difference between Islam and Muslims? And for many people, there isn't. So we can talk about Salafi Islam and ask the question, can a believing Salafi Muslim truly submit to the laws of the United States, or are they committed to the constant undermining of the Constitution of the United States and the laws of the United States? Are all Muslims Salafi? Are all Muslims, the term frequently used is radicalized, may not be the best term to use, but are all Muslims radicalized? Are all Muslims consistent in their practice and in their beliefs? Even if we're talking about, let's just say there is an absolutely consistent, unquestionable Islamic orthodoxy. Do all Muslims understand it that way, and are they consistent with it? That's like asking about Christians. Are all Christians united on this, that, or the other thing? We all know that there are a lot of people who call themselves Christians that we would go, they're not even close. Same thing amongst Muslims. So here you had a guy, he sees what's going on, he sees someone killing people. He's not blind, so he probably guessed that these guys are Muslims, and yet he disarmed them and paid the consequences for it. I doubt too many people are going to give him a whole lot of kudos. I've seen some. But the people who have this, I refuse to differentiate between Islam and Muslims attitude, they're not even going to want to talk about it. And that doesn't lead to real in-depth conversations on our part. So we certainly recognize that what took place at Bondi Beach was a specifically anti-Jewish act of violence. And that kind of anti-Jewish violence is common in Europe these days, probably underreported massively. And there are a lot of people that are absolutely set on promoting that mindset, that attitude, that perspective. All over the world. So we pray for the people. My understanding is there was a Holocaust survivor, survived the Holocaust to die in that way. Wow. That's pretty amazing. It really, really is. One other thing before we completely leave Joel Webbon here. Sorry about that. There was another one here. This one I think is very close to current because we have a Christmas tree on the left side. And that looks somewhat like a Christmas sweater. So probably pretty recently. But I'm not going to play this whole thing, but it's interesting, Joel's view of himself. Listen to what he says here.
And this is the way that I've worded it over the years. They don't kill the prophets for being right. They kill the prophets for being first. They don't kill the prophets for being right. They kill the prophets for being first. And that, I assure you, from experience, is a timeless principle that I have quickly learned over the years through the school of hard knocks. Plenty of people can say plenty of things. In fact, even the same things. In fact, even some of the same things in precisely the same way. But 6 months later.
Mm-hmm.
And be just hoisted on shoulder top and 7-day parades thrown in their honor. And here's a check and you get a check and come to this conference, come to this TPUSA event. Oh, snap. He's
got a speaker slot for you.
Yeah. We've got this opening. We've got this opportunity. You get a show on the Blaze, and that's just kind of the way it goes. Jesus told us that.
Okay. So Joel was the first one to be jumping on this train. What about Stone Choir? They were years ahead of Joel, and there are a lot of people, a lot of Stone Choir fans that are like, Joel just steals their stuff anyways, but he's not original. But what's this all about? And people like Nick Fuentes. They're way ahead of Joel. A prophet? He's actually claimed to be a prophet now, in the sense of leading the way to the exposure of the great Jewish world conspiracy? I don't know. Oh yeah. Oh well, yeah. There've always been those people out there, but this idea of I'll say it first, I'll take all the hatred, and the rest of you come along and just repeat what I'm saying. I wish there was someone in that studio that could say, come on, Joel, really? Remember what we used to talk about on this program? Maybe we could get back to that someday. I don't know. Doesn't seem to be anybody there. So there you go.